So today on Calvin's Garage, I'm going to show you how to change your oil. And I'm going to show you on my 1952 REO M-35. It's a 2.5 ton, 6-wheel drive military truck. But the process is the same for any vehicle. Down underneath the engine, it's usually located on the lowest part of the engine. On the oil pan, there is going to be a drain plug. That's where you drain the old oil out. So, to change your oil, you are going to need a socket that fits on the drain plug. You are going to need a ratchet that fits the socket. And you might also need more torque, so you might need a breaker bar. You also need something to catch the oil. Now, in most cars, 1 gallon drain pan would be fine, because most cars take less than 5 quarts of oil. However, this thing takes 9 quarts of oil, so I got a 5-gallon bucket. So I'm going to put the socket on the breaker bar and loosen the drain plug, left loose, right tight. So now it's actually very loose. So the key is to press up on the thing while you're unscrewing it until it's just about loose. Then you can, nope, a little bit more. Then you can, nope, still not. There we go. So gloves would also be helpful. Now, depending on the vehicle, you might be able to do it without getting much oil on your hands. If you keep pressing up on the plug as you unscrew it, that keeps the oil inside. And then when you feel the threads break away and it's no longer being held on there, you can get it away quickly, and normally you can get away with just a minimum amount of oil on your fingers. So you let that drain out, get all the old oil out of there before you put the new oil in. You don't have to let it drain forever until it's completely dry, but at least wait until the drops are going very slowly. If oil doesn't seem to be coming out very fast, try loosening the oil fill cap on the top of the engine. If you take that off, you can drain the oil faster. In this particular truck, the oil fill cap is currently off because we're replacing the head gasket. So a rag is also helpful to clean off the drain plug. You want to make sure that that plug is able to seal up properly. So you clean all the old oil and gunk off of it. You also want to make sure that the O-ring or gasket or whatever is on there stays on there and is clean. If you need to replace it, replace it. But if not, you can reuse them as long as they are clean so that they can create a proper seal. You can also wipe off the bottom of the drain plug too. Now, I'm going to let that drain a little bit more, and then this truck actually has 2 drain plugs. So it's got another one back there for the rest of the oil. So, after the oil has drained, you replace the plugs. You plug it back in, and then you tighten it up. If you look in your owner's manual or look online, you can probably find the torque specs for the drain plug, but I tend to tighten them, you know, just tight enough. You don't want to over tighten them, because you definitely don't want to have the plug strip, because that is you'd have to replace your entire oil pan. But you don't want it so loose that it vibrates and comes loose and oil leaks out. So I always start the plug with my fingers, get it in as far as I can to make sure that it's not cross-threaded. You don't want these cross-threaded. Then I use the ratchet to tighten it up just enough. Then I usually watch the plug. I can wipe it off, I can go do something, and then when I come back, if there's oil on there, I know that the seal is no good. That's the other thing, is when you fill the oil, you always want to keep an eye on the plug down here, make sure it's not leaking. Look at it the day after, make sure there's no oil on it. And so yeah, that's the plug. So after you drain the oil, you have to replace the filter. The filter location depends a lot on the car. The oil filter in this thing is inside that canister right there, and we actually get to it from the top. We unscrew the top of the canister and then we pull the oil filter out. But I still have to drain that plug as well. And I'm gonna loosen this drain plug. And for the plug back here, I have a funnel, because just the way this oil drains, it's easier to use a funnel. I almost dropped that drain plug into the bucket of oil. That is not a good time. It happens. It happens to everyone. And then you have to go magnet fishing, and you hope that it's a magnetic drain plug and not aluminium. So again, I tighten it up, and then I wipe it off, and later I can look, and if there's oil on it, that means it's leaking. So the oil filter is actually inside that canister. So you just remove that top nut, and you can take the old filter out and put the new one in. So you may be wondering, where do you get an oil filter for an 80-year-old truck? Well, the answer is Summit Racing Equipment. So this is the oil filter. It's very large, and you can see it's a Fram C31P. The other cross-referenced part numbers that I found, I couldn't find the filters that went with those cross-reference part numbers, but I was able to find the FRAM filter, so that's what I'm using. C31P, I believe, is the discontinued version, but they're still in stock on Summit Racing equipment. And then C31PL is the new version. The only difference is the way the paper filter is arranged. So there's really no difference between the P and the PL, but anyway, so we're using a socket and an extension, and of course that's still not the right size. So this is what the bottom of the top of the canister looks like. And then you pull the old filter out and put it into, and so you pull the old canister out and you put it into a drain container as quickly as possible. As you can see, this is a FRAM C31 filter that I'm taking out. That's the filter that was in the truck when I bought it. So I changed the oil once, but I didn't change the filter because I didn't have a filter at the time. I was trying to find a filter online and I couldn't. So I drained the oil and I took the filter out, and when I saw that it was a FRAM filter, I put it back in, put new oil in, and then I was able to look online and find the new filter. But so this filter, as you can see, it's pretty much the same thing, except it comes with two gaskets. I take it, so it's just the gasket on the top. So it comes with a new ring gasket for the top. It comes with a couple different sizes for different applications. So I'm just going to use the one that is supposed to be here. And then whenever you're replacing a gasket in the oil system, whether it's on the filter itself or on the canister, you always want to dip some oil onto the gasket. It helps it seal. So I'm just taking some of the used oil and spreading it on the gasket. Just a light coating of oil is all you need. So that's ready. Now, new filter going in. So the new filter is slightly smaller than the old filter, but it should be fine. Because no matter what, the oil, I believe the oil enters right up here, and then it drains on the bottom. So no matter what, it has to pass through the filter in order to get to the bottom. So it doesn't matter if the filter is slightly smaller, especially since it's held into place by the post in the middle, so it's not flopping around or anything. So now we can put the lid back on. Now that that's secured, we can refill the oil. So on top of the valve cover is the oil filler. So we're just gonna take the cap off of that, stick our funnel in, and that's how we're going to pour in the oil. For oil in this truck, so one thing you ought to know is I'm a strong believer in using the type of oil that the manufacturer recommends. I mean, they're the ones who built the car. They should know what it runs best on. Unless there's a very good reason why I should be using something else, I'm going to stick with the manufacturer's recommendation. And so for this vehicle, I use straight 30 non-detergent from Napa Auto Parts. So I don't use a multi-weight, I just use straight 30. Because that's what this truck was designed for, and until I get a good reason why I should use something else, I am going to stick with it. As far as non-detergent, there's a lot of stuff online with classic vehicles and old military vehicles, and whether the detergents and additives are helpful or not, and so there's a lot of stuff going around. I'm just going to use the non-detergent stuff. I'm pretty sure that the straight 30 only comes in non-detergent. I don't think I've seen straight 30 with the detergent. Now, for additives, there's a lot of people who recommend using a zinc additive like ZDDP. That's designed for race engines and for classic car engines, and I have used that in this truck in the past, and I may add that in the future, maybe later today. But when I was ordering the oil, I ordered it and had it shipped to the store for in-store pickup, and I forgot to order the zinc additive, so at least right now, I am not going to be using any additive, just the oil. I may include the additive later today, I'm not sure. Again, the jury is still out on whether the additive is actually necessary, whether it helps with this engine, and so I'm just not a die-hard believer in the oil additive. At least not yet. If someone has a good reason why this truck should use the zinc additive or should not use the zinc additive, put it in the comments below. And yeah. So you may be wondering why I buy quarts of oil. So this oil, it comes in quarts and 5-gallon buckets and 55-gallon drums. I'm pretty sure that it does not come in gallons. So I just buy the quarts because it is the easiest thing for me to do. As you can see, this truck takes almost a full case. I probably could have just ordered a full case, but meh. But anyway, yeah, so quarts, I ordered the quarts because it's the easiest. Actually buying a 5-gallon bucket of this stuff, it isn't that much cheaper, honestly. You're not saving a whole lot with the 5-gallon bucket or with the 55-gallon drum. And since I don't, maybe once the other truck is running and I have 2 trucks running that I'm changing the oil in a little more frequently, maybe then I'll buy a 5-gallon bucket or a 55-gallon drum. But even with the bucket or the drum, I would have to pump it. Whereas with the quarts, I can just pour it in, so it just makes it a lot easier. But I don't know, this is the way we're doing it for right now, and that may change down the line. When I am adding oil to a vehicle, any vehicle, I first add a few quarts, Then I go underneath the vehicle and I check to make sure that that there's no oil leaks, that the oil is not leaking from where the filter is, where the drain plug is, anywhere, so no oil is leaking out. Then I fill the engine a little over half, maybe 3/4 of the way, and then I wait a while and then I check the level, because the manufacturer might say that it takes, in this case, this truck is supposed to take 9 quarts of oil. The last time I did an oil change, I only put in 7 quarts, I think, and I was already at the full line. So I'm going to put in 6 quarts. I'm going to wait for the oil to settle in the drain pan so that I can accurately measure it. And then I am going to see if I need to add more. So you add the oil up here, and it has to go into the valves and travel down with the push rods and down through all the holes in order to get down into the oil pan. And when you measure the oil level at the dipstick, that's where you're measuring from, is the oil pan. Now, the thicker the oil, the longer it takes it to flow all the way down. So if you pour in a thick oil like that straight 30 and you check the dipstick immediately, a lot of that oil is still going to be up here and it's not going to be down there. And so it's going to look like you're low on oil when you could be just fine. So that's why I'm waiting, is I'm giving the oil time to flow all the way down into the oil pan so that I can get an accurate reading. Along with getting an accurate reading, always remember to wipe off the dipstick first. And then take your reading, because there could be residual oil on the dipstick. And there is no oil on the dipstick. That's interesting. So 6 quarts in and it's still not even registering on the dipstick. That's interesting. So I'm going to add another 2 quarts, make it 8 quarts. It's supposed to take 9. I'll make it 8, and then we'll check again. That extra 2 quarts did it, so right now it is about 3/4 of the way between the full line and the add line. So I'm going to leave it there, and then if I decide to add the zinc, that should top it off to the full line. But so yeah, that is how you change the oil. You drain the old oil, you take out the old filter, put in the new filter, replace any gaskets that come with the filter. Then you add the new oil up to the fill level. And that process is the same for any vehicle, though there may be some slight differences depending on the vehicle, specific procedures, especially if it's got a dry sump oil system. But so these oil jugs right here are all empty, and then these ones are full, so we'll hold on to these as extras. I've got some extras in the cab of the truck too. And then the empty ones we will recycle.